Hello, another episode of Natives Podcast. I'm Harry MacArthur. I'm with Bob Thornton and Eva Lee Ngai. And this is sharing a history of somebody I've known all my life. And it's another exciting thing because she's probably going to tell some stories about me when I was a little kid picking my nose and a lot of things I shouldn't have been doing, or, doing things I shouldn't have been, but just fun that she's going to tell the stories, and I hope she tells them all because it's going to be fun. And I'll let Bob start it off.
All right. Eva, I understand you were born in the Bronx in New York. Is that right?
No, I was born in Kowloon, Hong Kong.
In Hong Kong. And so would you like to share about your journey and your childhood and how you came to be here?
Well, thank you so much for having me. And it's all because of Harry and the MacArthur family that I am here, because Harry's family helped my grandfather with his farm. And because of their assistance, my grandfather was able to send for me, my mother, and my brother to come over to the U.S. So at the time, 1962, an airplane flight was $50 for me because I was under 2. So I came when I was 18 months old. And I just wouldn't be here without Harry and his family. So the moment I stepped off the airplane, Harry and his family were there to welcome us. And I brought a picture. Here I am at 2 years old with my sister and Harry's sister, Sally. So that is on the farm, and we're sitting in this old recliner. But what I find interesting about this picture is there's a rotary telephone with its own telephone stand. So a lot of the younger people would not know.
No, nobody knows what that is.
With a rotary dial. So there we are.
How old, Eva, was your grandfather when he came to the United States?
I'm not sure, but he was born in Taishan, China, and he was married at age 16 and had my mother when he was 17. So,
okay.
I guess he had to go back to China to find a bride. But his father ran a Chinese laundry in New York City, and they just had arranged marriages. So I can't imagine going out in the world when you're 16 years old and then having a bride.
Yeah, I can't.
Making a living for yourself. So because his father ran the Chinese laundry, he said that was too hard of work. And he apprenticed my grandfather, who's the oldest of 7, to a farmer. And that's how my grandfather learned how to farm. So with his brothers, my grandfather had a farm on East Moriches, Long Island, and the demand for Chinese vegetables was great at that time in the 50s and 60s because Chinese restaurants were just getting into their own, and they needed the Chinese vegetables. So the growing season on Long Island is a certain season, but because the demand was so great up and down the East Coast, my grandfather tossed a coin with his brother and, decided to come down here, and land was cheap here. They first farmed in Loxahatchee, and then I guess he found some land here in Hobe Sound. And it reminded him of his hometown in Taishan, China, because of the Australian pines and the similar weather. Because if you see China, Taishan, which used to be Canton, so we're Cantonese, yep. It's similar to the weather here in Hobe Sound.
Okay, and he got established, and then he sent for family.
Yes, but he only had a 6th grade education because he was the oldest, and he had to provide for his parents and other kids, and then his new wife and my mother. So, there's a lot of pressure for a
Wow.
teenager. I don't know how he did it.
I don't know how he did it
I
either.
I couldn't have done it. But to have a business without the internet, without faxes, emails. I just don't know how he did it. He just had Harry's mom, Pauline, help him out, because even today, there's a lot of mazes, paperwork, documentation that you need to start a business and to have a profitable business. So how would you know how to do that? You have to rely on your friends and family. And that's one of the things that I love about Hobe Sound, is because everyone is your friend and family. If you know Harry, the heart of Hobe Sound,
Harry the Heart. Sounds like a gangster name.
But it's just when he bought that property, they came into the restaurant because they needed a notary, and they notarized it. I think they notarized the property and got it done, because my dad was a real estate broker. I don't know how it worked out, but they met here, and they were just fast friends ever since. I mean, to me, he was family. I mean, you were family my whole life. I mean, it's just that. And the farm was just something special. You have to imagine this piece of property, 300 acres just lined with Australian pines. And Australian pines, now we all think, non-native plant and everything else. Well, we love the Australian pines because it was shooed the mosquitoes off and bugs, and see when when their leaves fell, it would repel insects. So we looked at them as different as everybody else looks at them now,
Right, and it provided shade.
Shade.
That's what I remember.
And wind.
Yes.
Wind.
Yes, it protected the crops.
So you're saying you didn't have air conditioning?
No.
No. And we would ride horses in the heat of summer, like at noon. And I remember, I had a helmet on and I was just dripping in sweat, but, we rode them. So.
Was that out to the McMillans?
Yes. So,
Okay.
that was my shtick, to look for candy and to go up to my neighbors and say, "Can I ride your horse?" So I think today it would be, "Can I use your mode of transportation?" And it's a lot more upscale.
A picture from school?
Yes, that was Hobe Sound Elementary School, and that was when I was in second grade. And my teacher loved us so much that she took a picture of us. And she was only 14 years older than me, so she was 21. It was her first job, and there I am at 7 years old. But she came to school, so it's 1967, wearing go-go boots, mini skirts, and she had an afro, and she drove a Mustang. So
Nice.
all of us kids, we would run up to her car, and, we just loved her so much. She loved us. We were her first class. And she decided to take us home for a sleepover. So here I am at 7 years old for the entire weekend. She took 4 girls home. So it's like, that's kind of inappropriate
Aww.
these days. But here we are. And what did we do the entire weekend? Well, we read
Next
books.
picture.
We read books, and we, just hung out. So, this is photographic proof that, we didn't have a TV. We were reading books. We just learned how to
I love it.
read. So we're reading. And here we are lying, no scrolling, whatever. We're reading physical books.
I imagine that would be frowned on now. The teacher taking the students home.
4 of them.
4 of them. But it was
What?
great, right?
It
Bonding.
was. Yes, I have visited her many times, and she wrote to me after she left Hobe Sound. But this was in West Palm Beach. She took us to West Palm Beach because there are no apartments in Hobe Sound at the time. She had to commute from West Palm Beach, so it was a distance away. But I had another very nice teacher, Mrs. MacArthur, who taught me home ec. Which was a very good skill to have, because managing your home as a business was something that we just don't learn how to do those things these days. But not only did Mrs. MacArthur teach us how to cook and sew, she introduced us to Girl Scouts, to 4-H, and to the Presbyterian Church. So I have to thank her a lot for my faith, because, you have problems in life, but if you can talk to God and,
Yes.
Have that lack of fear, because God is there for you. So.
And that church was a hub at that time.
Right.
That
We had
church,
youth
it
group.
was, it was a thriving church in the youth groups, and you can't imagine how busy it used to be. That little church was just, and then things happen and different preacher.
Were you related to that Mrs. MacArthur?
Yes, that was my mom.
Oh,
Yep.
just making sure we
was
made
my-
the connection.
Right. But
But she was a big part of Hobe Sound always. So, I mean, that's, it wasn't just recent 30 years. It was from the 50s. She was a part of everybody's life in this. And that's why so many people around here called her mom. Because, that town, we call her mom. If you'd go to the beach and they'd be saying mom. I go, that's weird, but that's the way she was. So.
But Hobe Sound Elementary School was just a single story. It's not. It isn't two-story like it was, like it is right now. But some of my best memories are the food. It's like Harry would say, "What's your favorite subject, Eva?" And I would say lunch. Because lunch was so good. The cafeteria ladies made us yeast rolls. Like, they'd come in early and they'd actually make the dough and make trays of these rolls, and by lunchtime, noon, they'd be ready, and they'd spread butter on top of it. It was just these food memories that you never forget, because the smell of the yeast and the butter is just great. And one of my favorite lunches was probably a oven baked drumstick with mashed potatoes, green beans, the roll, and peanut butter cookies. So, the peanut butter cookies had the stamp of the forks on them.
Yeah.
But now people are allergic to peanuts. But back then we had peanut butter cookies.
It was for peanut butter cookies for everyone.
Yes.
Nobody had allergies then.
Well, maybe they did, but we didn't. We never heard of it. And
I
then,
didn't know anybody.
Another teacher that made a big difference in my life was Mrs. Howe, the music teacher at Hobe Sound Elementary School. And she taught us all how to sing. She didn't care if you could hold a tune or not. You had to sing. So she taught us all the show tunes from The Sound of Music and patriotic songs and, Up with People. And every year we had to perform in a little play. So it didn't matter if you were musical or not. If you couldn't keep a beat or a tune, you were still in it. And in fourth or fifth grade, you got to choose an instrument, and I chose the flute because it was small, easy to carry, and
Small, easy to carry. Right. Everything. How much this weigh? This will work. I'll play this.
Right, but that started my love of music, and helped me go to the marching band at Martin County High School, which I have to say I was a proud parent of my son, who played saxophone in the local high school, and then my other son was in orchestra. So two different experiences. And then, my husband, he loved music. So, when you instill a kid with the love of music, it's just a lifelong tradition and passion.
And just keeps giving.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Fun memories there. How many built? There was probably 8 rooms at Hobe Sound Elementary then, and an office. There wasn't many. I mean, there was like the principal's office, and maybe there was like 4 rooms at the first section, and maybe 4 at the back, and then the cafeteria.
Right.
And that was it. And it had that little courtyard, and you went in the little courtyard for pictures. That was it. Don't run across the grass. That's for picture.
Well, they had a playground, so I had a little accident on the playground where they had this maypole. I don't know, it's a strange piece of playground equipment that they probably don't have anymore, but it was this round thing, and you kind of held onto it, and people would swing you around.
Yep.
So, I got my finger smashed into it, and it started bleeding and throbbing and all that. And who knows, if there was a nurse or if it was just the principal, Mr. Brooks, who bandaged me up. But I'm sure they tried to call my parents, but they were probably in the field working. So they couldn't get in touch with them. So he drove me all the way home because he probably didn't want to deal with a bleeding kid. But, that's the way it was. Your principal knew who you were, who your family was, and
was the nurse.
Right.
Wow. Times have changed in Hobe Sound a little bit.
Right, where everyone knew each other. But, I wanted to talk about my grandfather's farm. So here is some crops, and you see the Australian pines in the background, and the irrigation system. So that was one crop. And this next photo is of some flowers. So when they say, gone to seed, that's what that means. But he saved the seeds. So you could see that's probably at the end of the season.
And I remember the winter melons too. And my dad, he loved making soup out of them and stuff. And he just thought that was the greatest thing ever, like all the different squash and different stuff that
Bok choy.
Yeah, bok choy and the different stuff, and he thought he was the happiest could be.
Right.
But,
that was very comforting food, but I have comforting food too. So every time I come to Harry's, I just have to have a big bowl of grits because to me that's kind of comforting food because it's hot and there's salt and butter, and it just reminds me of my childhood. So here he is proudly on his tractor, and it's a big deal to have a tractor.
Now, the crops that he was growing, was he shipping those back up to the restaurants?
Yes. So he shipped them to up and down the East Coast, to Washington, D.C., and to New York City. And here he is holding some bok choy. So this was kind of the original bok choy with longer stalks of white stalks. And
three or four semis a week you would haul out there.
Yeah,
right?
And the coordination with the transportation is amazing. But he partnered with his brother and his different relatives, so they could all trust each other. But still, to coordinate, I'm going to be sending up 200 boxes, and, you need to find customers for it. And, there's no I-95.
No. Yeah, wasn't it? And here's how it would work. Now, we knew it, and I don't know what day it was, but what? I don't know whether my parents were. John would say, a semi's going. So then you'd hear the semi pulling up to the caution light. It was just a caution light. Then we'd watch it go around leaving. It was like a big deal watching a semi go around the corner because, it was full of Chinese vegetables and going to New York. And,
Well, and like you shared, there was no computer, internet. If you had a phone, you had one phone in the center of the house, and usually there was no answering machines, right?
No.
So if you were out working, you weren't getting that phone call.
Right. So this is more bok choy, and I have these photos because Palm Beach Post, Stuart News, they all were interested in the farm, and they thought it was such a novelty to have a Chinese vegetable farm in Hobe Sound. And now my grandfather's been gone for 30 years, but there's so many people who don't even know about the Chinese vegetable farm.
Yeah.
So there he is with some cabbages, and it took a lot to run the operations because he had seasonal workers, and the workers lived on the farm, and they cooked, and it's just I don't know how he did the operations.
I don't know how he did either. I mean, to me, it was such a big operation, and even like if you look at the property just to the east of it, it was just a cow pasture, and it was. I would go out there as a kid and mow it and stuff like that. But when he took it over, he just went out there and graded it. He just had a water level, and he'd set the water thing down. He'd look across it, and then he'd go over and flag. And that's a little high, and he did that whole thing was level off his eye just walking around. I mean, he was that amazing. My dad said he doesn't need a transom. He doesn't need anything. He can do it all off the water. He looking across it. My dad thought it was the greatest thing ever.
Well, he dug a big well for irrigation, and I think he won some water conservation award. So, I'm sure Harry's family told people he has this big well, and. We just big fans, as you can tell. We were such big fans of his, But, probably I'm dropping my job here. Yes, so that's a newspaper reporter, trying to ask him about the crops, and you'll see the Australian pines in the background. So that was during the season. So at the end of the season, everyone in town came over, and they had a big party, and that was everyone in town.
That's it.
So we knew each other very well and helped each other, and I just love the spirit of natives helping natives, but it goes back so far.
Yep. Well, it was such a big deal for this thing, and I have a picture, I think it's down in the bar, at this party, at one of these parties, and I have a hot dog, and the hot dog, half the bun's falling off, and I'm just looking like, like this is the greatest day of my life. I mean, this was such a big deal, but everybody would come from all over for the party.
It was. And that's one of the squashes that my grandfather grew, and this was probably at the Martin County Fair. So, if you were in 4-H or Girl Scouts, you probably made an outfit or, had a calf to show at the fair. And it was just such an experience to go to the fair. They had rides. They had cotton candy.
Oh, yeah.
The competitions and all that. So it was great. So I guess people, loved the vegetables so much that they wanted my grandfather to open a restaurant. And my grandfather had no experience running a restaurant, but because of different people and circumstances, it's hard to say no. So Harry has a picture of his restaurant. This is a newspaper clipping of Golden Gate, which was on Singer Island in Riviera Beach. And John D. MacArthur, is he related to you?
No.
Okay.
No.
So no relation to Harry.
No. It's John D. and we're John B. We missed it by 2 letters.
2 letters and how many millions?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and 100 million or a couple 100 million.
So John D. MacArthur, who had the Genius Grants, he had a yacht club called the Colonnade Yacht Club on Singer Island, and he wanted to have Chinese food. So he gave a deal to my grandfather that he couldn't resist, which was free rent, and my grandfather just used all the resources that he had, and together with the MacArthurs, learned how to operate a restaurant.
Off a handshake. No contract, no nothing. They just worked together on a handshake deal. I mean, it just is what I heard.
Right, but you don't see any mention of it in John D. MacArthur's biographies or any stories written about him. But here it is, proof
Yeah.
that
Oh,
he knew my grandfather, and he was here at the restaurant, and I was a teenager bussing tables at the restaurant, and I would see him, sit at his table. He had his own table, and he would come in every day to eat Chinese food, and he had a packet of soy sauce that he'd, sprinkle a drop on and then save the rest for later. So he's a multimillionaire, but he's very frugal. So that's how you stay a multimillionaire. You don't waste any resources.
he wasted nothing. I mean, and that's the people that work for him at the colonnades and everything. They didn't. I mean, and at that time you could take the scraps off the table and then you send them to the farm for the hogs and stuff like that. And he did all that. There was a farm west of there, and they'd send he wanted to use everything. He was cheap. But
frugal.
Very
It's a frugal lifestyle. It's a whole thing. The frugal lifestyle.
Smart.
And so Harry's family knew everyone in and around the area. So here I am standing next to Perry Como, and Perry Como lived in Jupiter Inlet Colony. So Perry Como is an Italian singer, and he was a big celebrity. So he looks like one in this photo.
He does look like it.
His shirt is unbuttoned down to his navel, and he has some gold chains. And here he is with his arms around my grandfather, like he's his best friend. And there's me and my sister Lisa, who is that little baby with Sally. We all grew up. So I remember that distinctly. That was probably 1977. Based
77.
on the way we were dressed and everything. But I guess, his Italian roots, he just wanted to come see where his food was grown and, just to walk the fields.
A big day for you.
Yeah.
Well, no, I didn't know who he was.
Oh, really?
Perry Como, that was for old people. In the 70s, we had the best music. We had rock, we had Led Zeppelin,
Well, they were talking about Perry Como. We didn't know who he was. We didn't know. They were talking about Perry Como. I know. That's Perry Como.
Italian singer, yeah.
Nobody, I think that's probably why I liked it around here, because nobody thought he was anything. He was
a nice guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, he'd go to County Line Pizza or wherever. He'd just go and he'd just fit in. Hello, how you doing? Just a different time. Nobody. It was so small that everybody treated him normal. Nowadays he'd be on everything and everybody be, ooh.
Well, him and Burt Reynolds.
Yep.
I never met Burt Reynolds, but he lived, off US 1 near the Intracoastal. So
he was as nice as could be, and his parents were as nice as could be. So I mean, that's why I still have the shirt up there, Burt Reynolds Ranch. And the other night they said, "Why do you have that shirt up there? It's dirty like that." I says, "Because people don't remember Burt Reynolds Ranch. It's history, and we're losing all our history. So I'm just telling you, it wasn't just about movies and stuff he did. He had a ranch out there, and now the Martin County school system bought that property. I think I can't remember who bought it, but I think there's still some of it left. I don't know. Some of it's developed, but I don't know. But
yeah, I didn't know it at the time, but. I was a big fan of the Monkees and Davy Jones. He lived out in Indiantown. My teenage idol lived right down the road. So it's such a special area, Martin County.
I wonder how Davy Jones, wasn't Davy Jones from England?
Yes, but he was interested in horses.
Oh, okay. I was like, how did he end up in Indiantown of all places?
And
especially then.
Yeah.
And he was nice as could be. He'd come in nice as could be. And the Monkees, that was put together by Hollywood, put them together.
Correct. They weren't a real band when they started them. It was just a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
But he was another one nice. Monkees. Hi. Another one that we didn't know any better. We have next.
So this is a birthday celebration, and you'll see some of the barns in the background. So we had it outside, and today's birthdays are just out
Yes.
of control. Like
Yep.
we were lucky to have a piece of cake and a Coke.
Yep.
So, that was a big deal. And a balloon. My brother is blowing up a balloon.
And another thing, right near where that picture was taken, they had two star fruit, carambola trees. And boy, they were just good. And when they would start, when the fruit was ready, they'd tell us, and we'd come out here. You'd sit there, you'd eat them like that. You'd eat them till you get a sore stomach, because it was so good, right? It was just that, And like the lychees, it was like a big deal.
Right. So here are some little lychees. As they grew, we would climb trees. I mean, it's like my sister would always say, "There's nothing to do in Hobe Sound," but we could climb trees. We could just roam around and do whatever we wanted to do.
And now it's still a comfort food for me. I mean, lychees and that.
And here is an example of natives helping natives. So I was always looking for candy, and Mrs. MacArthur invited everyone to the community center to meet Santa. And here I am getting candy. So I'm really happy.
The highlight of your day.
Yeah.
I notice we have a theme between food and candy with you.
But crafts too. So I brought you something. So this is for Harry, and this is for you. And
Thank you.
I was kind of reluctant to come on because Harry has been hounding me to tell him some ancient Chinese secrets. And I have never said that. So this is a homage to your, Irish, Scottish roots.
Yeah.
So,
How
St.
cool
Patty's
is that?
Day is coming up. So
Thank you.
That's just Martin County. So since I retired, I, was looking for a hobby. But Martin County Library has a Glowforge machine, and I made that.
Thank
on
you.
The Glowforge machine.
Just in time for St. Patrick's Day.
Yes, and that's candy.
Wow.
This is candy?
No, the other
Oh.
stuff is
Oh
candy.
my goodness.
So,
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, what about your career and stuff? So you're 17. Did you go to college? What happened then?
So I had enough credits at Martin County High School to graduate early, but Mrs. Clara Fulton said, "No, Eva, do not go out in the world yet. You're not ready yet." And I'm like, "But I have enough credits. Why won't you let me go?" And she's like, "You have a lot of time to be a grown-up, but you don't have that much time to be a teenager." So I said, "Okay." But luckily in Martin County, you had dual enrollment. So I went to Indian River Community College for free. I took some courses, took one class at Martin County High School, which was photography, and then went to Indian River Community College. So by the time I graduated from Martin County High School in 1978, I had college credits. So I was able to graduate from college in 3 years.
Wow.
And, back then, it was $8,000 a year to go to college, and that included room and board. So
Seth is shaking his head. It costs how much?
Right. So, I saved money by, only going 3 years. And then for my master's, it was only $15,000 to go to Columbia University Journalism School. $15,000. So I borrowed $5,000, and my grandfather paid the rest. So,
He did.
yes. So this all came to be because of 4-H. So I was in 4-H, and Mr. Whitty and Mrs. Norton, who ran the county agent. Mr. Whitty was the county agent. They said, "Well, why don't you do a cooking demonstration of Chinese food?" So I did beef with bok choy, and entered it in the state competition. So I won second place, and there was a local cable TV station that said, well, why don't you come and show us how to make it? So, I say that I'm the first influencer.
Yes, you were. That's what I was going to say. You beat it. I tell you what, you were early in the career of influencing. You know, now you'd have 3 million followers, but you were just too early in it.
Right, but your mom and other ladies, and I'm really happy to be here for Women's History Month, because your mom was the original role model.
Yep.
You could do anything. You could be a housewife, a mother. You could be an entrepreneur. You could be a community leader. You could be anything. But in the mid '70s, Connie Chung was on the news, and you had Watergate. So I was like, there's someone who looks like me on TV. I want to be that person. So I wanted to go into journalism, and my first job was back here in Florida, because I didn't really like New York and Columbia. It was cold up there, and the people weren't as friendly as they were in Hobe Sound. So, I was very happy to be in Hobe Sound. So I came back, and I had a job at the Boca News, and then I went to the Ledger in Lakeland and the Orlando Sentinel. And then at the Orlando Sentinel, I met someone, and it was a funny story. We had training at the Poynter Institute in St. Petersburg, Florida, and the guy would pick us up from our hotel room and drive us to the Poynter Institute. And I thought he was just a bus driver, but no, he was a person who worked at USA Today. And because I talked to him like a regular person, he said, well, we really need you up there at USA Today, and why don't you come and work with us? So I said, of course. But that the media industry has changed a lot, so we just had to adapt with the flow. So being in Washington, D.C., it's all who you know, Harry. The networking is really important, because the lady who helped me with my second career after I was laid off from USA Today, after a couple of decades, she said, we need someone to work for the Secretary of Transportation. So I said, okay, I'm there. It's like January at 5 p.m. It was cold. Who has an interview at 5 p.m. on a Friday? And
No.
I'm like, I'm there. It had just snowed, and I'm like, I have 4-wheel drive. I'm going. So that should have tipped me off to. They worked all the time, but Secretary LaHood needed someone to help him with the intranet for employees. So I ran that, and then I worked for the SBA, and then I worked at FAA as a public affairs specialist. So I just retired.
What a career you had through those three. I mean, that because just as soon as you got used to one job, you would change it, right?
Well, the media changed all the time. I mean, it went
media's
from
always
broadcast to
Yep.
print to podcasts. I worked on the Air Up There podcast for the FAA. So, that caught the attention of the secretary, and he won an award for it.
Wow. See,
You just had to change and adapt.
all this from little Hobe Sound to
Yeah.
there, with nothing to do in Hobe Sound to Washington, D.C., to New York, to, USA Today, I always, when I did travel, I had to go around the airport to see whether I could find a USA Today for free instead of buying it. I was kind of like, because, somebody reads it and then they throw it down. I just go like, those days it was a lot of money. It was
Over $1.
yeah, it was over $1. I don't know. That was 35, 40 years ago. You just go, hey, I'll get it I learned that from my brother-in-law, he goes, don't buy it. He says, just walk around the airport. You'll find one. I go, okay. Good advice. You use $1, get a cup of coffee or something to drink, a water, That's when water's cost $1 in an airport, Not like now. Now it's $4 or so, $5. This is just another article on my mom.
Mm-hmm.
This is...
Well, she introduced us to Girl Scouts, so it was very interesting that we would sing at the nursing home. Mm-hmm. And, little did I ever know that my mom would be in that nursing home. And, I saw that picture and I said, wow, Mrs. MacArthur is with us always.
With us, yeah. I love it, yep. But like I said, she volunteered there from 1962. And she was the longest running volunteer in 92. They gave it to her. And like then she still did it another 15 years after that, probably.
Wow.
That's a lot of energy,
Yep.
to volunteer, to take care of you guys,
Yep.
and to teach. And I don't know how people did it.
Yep.
And you said that she was, when you got off the plane, she was there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's, and 45 years volunteering, that's crazy.
Yeah. But it was a different time because we were all together. And it was just like, I think the whole town, it was just very unified and everybody. I think the thing is, it takes a village or whatever. And it takes a town to raise each other because if we'd ride our bikes through somebody's yard, I'd get home and they'd say, hey, why'd you cut through, Sam's yard? I go, well, I shortcutted it. What am I going to say? You know what?
Right. We all had to behave because if you didn't, your parents would hear about it and then
you were
you'd get a
done.
whooping.
Yeah. And I got enough of those already. Probably should have got a couple more.
Well, that was the thing in school. If you were bad, you had to go to the principal's office and you might get a paddling.
Yep.
None.
No, not anymore. Yeah. I remember my dad would always say, because he knew everything that we did. I couldn't figure it. There were 6 kids. We ran holy hell all over, and he always knew. I was an altar boy, and I had to serve at a funeral mass. And none of us wanted to serve a funeral mass because if you served at a wedding, you got a tip. If you served at a funeral mass, you didn't get a tip. No. So I didn't want to ever do the funeral masses, but I was doing one, and I was holding, it was Catholic church, big marble altar, and I'm holding this giant metal cross. And I was with a kid named David Becker, who was a little bit older, and he was even more of a troublemaker than I was. And together, it was like gasoline and matches. Well, I'm holding this cross, and I just started to daydream, being an ADD guy, and I was not paying attention to the service or anything. And without realizing it, I was tired of holding the cross. So I just let it go in the middle of the service. So the cross, and it was taller than me. I was a kid who was taller than me. And it dropped down on that big metal cross, hit that marble altar, and it sounded like a band coming through with cymbals. And David started laughing, so I started laughing. Now I'm an adult. We were at somebody's funeral. The church was filled, and the two of us got the giggles, and we couldn't stop. So one of us would tee hee hee, and the other one, and we're trying. I'm trying all I can to hold myself together. And when my dad got home that night, man, did I take a beating because a little bird told him that I dropped the cross, and the way that it was portrayed to my dad was I had done it on purpose for the laugh, which was the furthest thing from the truth. But they always knew, didn't they? They knew Harry cut through the yard. You probably didn't do anything wrong when you were little, though.
No, because my grandfather, always said, don't embarrass the family. It's all about legacy and the family and saving face, losing face. So, no. You couldn't do anything, even though I'm so glad that they didn't have, cell phones, social media.
Agreed.
Whatever.
Yep, very much so.
I mean, I think the only things that we did was, go to the beach at night, and maybe there was underage drinking.
Yeah.
I don't know, but not a big drinker, so that wasn't my thing.
Well, another thing that's from 40 some years ago is a friend of mine told his kid, he goes, I'm going to beat you so hard. He goes, your nose is going to bleed. He says, you keep up with that. Now, if you said that, you'd be in jail.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Just for saying it.
Yeah, just for saying it.
No, when my dad whistled, if you had to be home when the streetlights came on. That was the rule, and we all knew it. But one of us out of the 6 kids could never seem to follow that. That would be this guy. Well, my dad told me the night before, he said, if you're not home when those streetlights come on and I whistle for you and you don't come home, I'm going to find you and I'm going to beat you all the way home. So I was out. We were playing ball, and streetlights came on. I was oblivious. We were in the middle of a game. It was competitive. I was a competitor. And my dad whistled, and I was like, man, I am just going to ignore that. My dad came down, and he beat me going up the street with his belt. And a woman opened her door, and she came out on her porch, and she said, sir, I'm going to call the police on you. My dad, without missing a beat, turned around and pointed to her. He said, mind your own business and get back in your house or you're next. And that was the end of my intervention because she went back in the house and closed the door. I don't think he'd get away with that now.
Nope, not going to happen nowadays.
But what I love about a small town, Martin County High School was the only high school.
Yep.
For the whole county. So, we were friends with people from Jensen Beach, and, we met people from all economic levels, all races. And that was the thing. When I went up north, people were like, well, how could you be friends with, they're not like you. And I'm like, I don't really see that because here you just see people. Hobe Sound is a diverse place.
Yeah.
So thank God your mom didn't judge us. It's like, oh, you look different. You're yellow, whatever, slanty eyes. But, we're just people. And, she taught us people are people.
Well, she says, judge the person, not the nationality. And that's
That's so progressive because,
yeah, especially back then, right?
Yeah. But I mean, everybody, they judge people before whatever they are. You just judge them on how they are. You're much better off. You find out more good ones than you do. Then the bad ones, you just automatically, you go, you can't change them. We're just done with them.
And I noticed you had little flower up there.
Yes, this is an homage to Pauline. She always wore flowers in her hair. So
you've given
Thank
a
you
little.
so much.
I notice a lot of pictures down in the restaurant with her with that right in her hair all the time. So that's
she's
nice.
always with me.
That's awesome. So definitely a big influence in your life.
Yes.
Well, thank you. I mean, this is probably a good time to wrap it up unless you get more to say.
No, thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you. Love it. I think we have more to get to, but we'll stop it now. But you have more stories and everything else about your mom and your grandfather and everything else, and love to hear them because when he built even his house out by the 95. You know what? That was so progressive in that time. You know what? A Chinese house out in the middle of the country, with a lake in front of it, and having the farm behind it. I mean, those times we went, look at that house. It was like, to us, it was the same thing as something on Jupiter Island, is what I'm saying.
It was Taj Mahal.
Yeah, it was. I mean, now I look at it, I go, that's a little house. I go, when he built it, was like, you know what I'm saying? I mean, did you feel that way?
Well, there wasn't a Home Depot. I don't know how he got all the stuff because he chose everything in that house. And who did he work with? He made everything inside of it kind of Chinese. And where did he get the ideas? How did he source these materials? I'll never know.
And then when he got it done, he had a party. When he had So he was always, and then invite the whole town. Everybody was invited.
Well, Eva, we want to thank you. I know
you.
you said before we started that you were a very private person. So
Yes.
thank you for
Thank you.
coming to share. And you wanted to share and you wanted to honor. And you definitely did that.
Yeah.
Right, and I'll tell Harry an ancient Chinese secret because he's always been hounding me. So be happy in Hobe Sound.
Okay.
I love it. I love it.
That's very good. If you're out there and you're listening,
Yes.
we'd love to have you come on and tell your story, share what you've been through, and talk to the people in the community, because there's someone out there that really needs to hear your story, wants to hear your story, and we want to share your story. So if you're listening, come on down and let's sit around the campfire and tell some stories.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Seth. Thank you.
Always.